There's no list. There's never been a list.
And you never heard Mr. Epstein talk about such a list?
Never. There is no list. There is no, I'm not aware of any blackmail. I never heard that. I never saw it, and I never imagined it. President Trump was always very cordial and very kind to me, and I just want to say that I admire his extraordinary achievement in becoming the president now. I actually never saw the president in any type of massage setting. I never witnessed the president in any inappropriate setting in any way. The president was never inappropriate with anybody.
Do you know whether, for example, President Clinton ever received a massage?
I don't believe he did. I never witnessed the president in any inappropriate setting in any way. The president was never inappropriate with anybody. In the times that I was with him, he was a gentleman in all respects.
You're not aware of President Clinton ever going to the island?
He absolutely never went, and I can be sure of that, because there's no way he would have gone. I don't believe there's any way that he would have gone to the island had I not been there, because I don't believe he had an independent friendship, if you will, with Epstein.
Ghislaine Maxwell sat in there for about 9 hours talking to Donald Trump's former personal attorney, who's now the Deputy Attorney General now of the United States, about what it is that she knows and doesn't know. And apparently everything she knows is how wonderful Donald Trump was, and that she barely knew him, except those times that she did know him, and he was very appropriate. Never saw anyone, never received anything, never actually interacted all that much. He was only Jeffrey Epstein's best friend. It's well adjudicated fact. But still, Ghislaine Maxwell, convicted child sex trafficker and rapist, apparently has credibility to talk about what it is she knows about Donald Trump, and conveniently it has all these great things to say about Donald Trump. And you know, in case you guys still wondering about her credibility, there's this guy. He's no longer with us. His name was Jeffrey Epstein. Maybe you've heard of him. They said he killed himself and that he was a child sex trafficker. But for some reason, this person that has all this credibility also said this about Jeffrey Epstein, convicted child sex trafficker who apparently killed himself in jail.
The 63-year-old also claims she never connected Epstein with underage girls, despite her 2021 conviction.
I did introduce him to women. I did, but not underage women.
Epstein victim Annie Farmer, who testified against Maxwell, says otherwise.
She didn't just procure girls and women for Epstein, but she herself participated in their abuse.
Jeffrey Epstein wasn't introduced to underage girls, but he was convicted and eventually died in prison due to those convictions and all the discoveries about his child sex trafficking ring, along with that person who just said it never happened. What the fuck is he dead for then? What are you convicted for? You guys just were some swingers and hung out with adult women who were completely involved and wanted to be in this whole thing? But next up, it's weird. Next, somebody's going to tell me that this whole thing is just a hoax and there was no children involved at all. That'd be really stupid for someone to say, wouldn't it? That'd be really, really unbelievable for someone to say something like that.
People shouldn't be hurt, but I'm in support of keeping it totally open. I couldn't care less. You got a lot of people that it could be mentioned in those files that don't deserve to be. You know, people, because he knew everybody in Palm Beach. I don't know anything about that, but I have said to Pam and everybody else, give them everything you can give them, because it's a Democrat hoax. It's just a hoax. The whole Epstein thing is a Democrat hoax. So we had the greatest 6 months, 7 months in the history of the presidency, and the Democrats don't know what to do, so they keep bringing up that stuff. But it affected them. Bill Clinton was on his plane and went to the island supposedly 28 times. I don't want to bring that up, frankly. You have Larry, whatever his name is, Summers, the head of Harvard, who was Jeffrey Epstein's best friend. Nobody ever talks about that. I mean, but I don't want to hurt Larry Summers, but he was best friends with Jeffrey Epstein. No, this is a Democratic hoax to try and get the significance of what we've done over the past 7 months. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. They say it's #1 in history.
That haggardly tired old man, where it looks like his skin is slowly falling off of his bones, is the one that's talking about how this was a hoax. I guess there was no such thing as child sex trafficking. I guess there was no reason for him to then declare that he thought Jeffrey Epstein was a creep, and he distanced himself from him at some point after they were really good friends. And as he's on video saying he's into underage women, he's into them women on the young side. How does all that exist if all of it is a hoax? It's almost like he thinks everyone is as dumb as he is. But again, more of the lies. He brings up Bill Clinton must have been on that island 28 times. It's weird though. It's weird. That one woman that sat into that interview for 9 hours to try and exonerate you by saying you never did anything, she also said Bill Clinton never did anything too. So somebody's lying. Is it your star witness who's also child sex trafficker? Is it Ghislaine Maxwell that's lying? Because she said Bill Clinton never did anything. And you said he did, but you don't want to keep bringing that up because you don't want to destroy people's lives. Which one of you is lying? It doesn't matter to people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, because Marjorie Taylor Greene is a water carrier for this administration and this dictatorial president. So then she tweeted this. Ghislaine Maxwell says President Trump was never inappropriate with anyone and was a perfect gentleman in all respects. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene. She says, I'll say it again. The Democrats tried to put President Trump in jail for the rest of his life, destroy his business and take his wealth, and multiple assassins tried to kill him. If there had ever been any evidence against Donald Trump in any of the Epstein case files, the Democrats would have used it against him a long time ago. And lastly, President Trump has been vindicated once again. Marjorie Taylor Greene thinks that Ghislaine Maxwell is a credible witness that vindicated Donald Trump. So everything else that she says, whether it be about overseas conflicts, domestic issues, she's bullshit you. She doesn't believe in anything that she says. She just says stuff for political expediency. And if you prop her up, you're a sucker. And you're propping up someone who's going to continue to prop up this dictatorial president, who will also prop up white supremacy, who will also prop up sending military and troops into the streets, who will also prop up putting up people in gulags, who will also prop up murdering American citizens and murdering innocent folks who are here in undocumented statuses as well. That's what Marjorie Taylor Greene stands for, because no matter how much she says that seems like it makes any kind of sense, she'll always go back to carrying his saggy ass in both of her hands as long as possible so she can gain as much power and influence as possible. That's Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's almost close. It's a close race. I mean, it's head to head. We'll see how it finishes. She's almost as dumb as Tim Burchett of Tennessee.
I was the one that urged the chairman in the committee to move forward the subpoena Ghislaine Maxwell. I think we need to get to the bottom of it. And I think President Trump wants to get to the bottom of it. And you know good and well, if Trump was on any of those files, anything that was bad and negative towards him, the Biden administration would have put it out. They had it for 4 years. Trump knew this guy, and he said he was a dirtbag. He banned him from Mar-a-Lago over 15 years ago before he was suicided. So I just think this thing is a bad situation. And I don't know if we'll ever get to the bottom of it, because I don't trust the Biden administration, because they had those files for 4 years. I don't know what they've removed or doctored or changed. I don't trust them as far as I could throw the dome off the Capitol, brother. And dadgummit, we need to get to the bottom of it. That's why people, when you delay these things, it just allows the corruption to creep in. And I think that's what has happened now.
Dadgummit, Tim Burchett now suddenly doesn't think we're ever going to get to the bottom of the Epstein files. Weird how we keep getting little tidbits of information, and the more pressure that gets put on them to say more things like what Trump keeps saying to continue to incriminate himself and make it completely obvious that he's covering it up for his own ass, and his entire Justice Department is covering it up for his own ass. Suddenly, Tim Burchett, dadgummit, doesn't think we're ever going to get to the bottom of it. I mean, he's doing everything he can to make sure of that. That's for dadgum sure. But what he wants you guys to know is to leave this alone, because, Joe Biden must have doctored and changed things in those Epstein files, because he had them for 4 years. I'm going to remind you guys again. Jeffrey Epstein died in prison during Donald Trump's first term. Jeffrey Epstein got that sweetheart deal from one of Donald Trump's officials. Jeffrey Epstein files, if they're doctored or altered or scoured over the way that many officials in the FBI were directed to do in this term, they did it before Joe Biden got into office. But for some reason, Tim Burchett doesn't dadgum trust Joe Biden's office that didn't do anything when they could have done a lot more. You know who else Tim Burchett doesn't trust? He doesn't trust the survivors of these child sex trafficking rings.
I have spent the last 17 years in my own prison for what she, Jeffrey, and all the co-conspirators did to me. I was raped repeatedly. I was raped 3 times a day sometimes. And I was not the only girl on that island. There was a constant stream of girls being raped over and over and over again. And yes, Ghislaine must die in prison because I've been in hell and back for the last 17 years.
Tim Burchett cares about those victims about as much as he cares about those children who were killed in that school shooting in his state as well, when he said, we're not going to do anything about it. If somebody wants to kill you, my daddy said they're going to kill you. That is, unless I'm rich and connected to power enough to avoid all that stuff. But you regular people, you're going to die. It's weird how this Republican Party keeps saying things like that. It's gotten so bad. It's gotten so bad. Jason Chaffetz, former Republican congressman as well, who's now on Fox News, he isn't buying this bullshit.
This is a person in Ghislaine Maxwell that knows a lot about Epstein, that he has, erectile dysfunction, but, plays the part of Sergeant Schultz and can't recall anything that anybody did any wrong. That list may not be written down on some nice, cute spreadsheet, but it's in her head. And I wish they would just ask her the simple question. Well, then the people who visited the island, start writing down a list. If you're going to get limited immunity, you better start coming up with a list. And you can verify whether or not President Clinton went to the island. Go ask the Secret Service. There's a reason. The Secret Service is secretive, but they're also law enforcement. And if there was a commission of a crime, they still need to answer questions. They shouldn't be bashful about asking them. And I think they should go to that direction. But I don't buy what she's selling at this point. She is highly motivated to say whatever she needs to say in order to get out earlier. But come on, there's 2 people that went to jail. Only one of them is still alive. And there's nobody else that did anything wrong. And you can't come up with anybody else who did. What were these young women doing going to the island? Playing hopscotch? Getting lessons on how to sing or play the violin? Come on. There's a lot more here.
If only he'd point out that the lot more here is the guy in the White House who continues to cover this up and act like we're all supposed to believe all these things that he said don't make any sense. 9 hours of an interview with his former personal attorney. His former personal attorney, who was standing next to him as he got convicted of 34 felony counts. After that guy's name is Todd Blanche. You know who he spoke to? I'm going to remind you guys this again. He spoke to Ghislaine Maxwell and her attorney. His name is David Oscar Marcus. And what you may see that's kind of curious is those 2 guys are really good friends.
But David, in all seriousness, to you, I know a lot of people that have worked with you. I know a lot of people who know you very well. I now consider you a friend and someone who I know pretty well. You are by far the best out there, and I'll always say yes to this podcast. It could be the first 3-peat.
Let's do a 3-peat.
There's those 2 best friends. How they'll always do their podcast together because they're going to have some 3-peats. I guess the third part was when they all hung out together and asked Ghislaine Maxwell a bunch of questions, and she answered them the way that they wanted her to, so that she could potentially, first off, get put to the minimum security camp that she's in from the maximum security one she's in, because she's a convicted child sex trafficker. But then after that, then have the president start floating potential pardons for her if she says all the right things. I want to show you guys some more reality. Over on Aaron Burnett's show on CNN, there was something about this whole long 9 hours worth of tape, which most people don't get a chance to listen to. But this former FBI chief Andrew McCabe was talking about it with Aaron Burnett, and they noticed something about all that glowing talk that she had to say about Donald Trump and how it just didn't really make much sense. And it makes you wonder why, after he said she answered all the questions, she even answered the questions that she wasn't even asked because she had a specific direction in mind that she was going with. Listen to this.
Director, I just want to point out, I mentioned it briefly, but I want to emphasize something I said at the top of the program, and that is that Maxwell's first mention of Trump in this interview with Blanche came unprompted, right? He didn't even have to ask about him for her to bring him up.
Yeah, I just think the entire thing, Aaron, is so curious. It's so suspicious. When you listen to the tapes, you get the sense that Ghislaine Maxwell went into that room knowing what information she had to deliver to get their attention and to get their approval and to get some sort of benefit that she is pursuing from the administration. And the administration, in the form of Todd Blanche, went into that room knowing what information he needed, which was what she was going to say about Donald Trump's involvement or non-involvement. And both sides delivered to each other's satisfaction. Ghislaine Maxwell, unprompted, spoke glowingly of the president, referred to him only in the most respectful term, which, is obviously the way that he prefers to be treated. And we know that at the conclusion of this totally unconventional interview, an interview with someone who is purporting to try to become a government cooperator and has the opportunity to be interviewed by the Deputy Attorney General. That's something that never, ever happens. There are no actual line agents or investigators in the room to serve as witnesses or to document the interview in the normal way. It's recorded and then immediately released to the public, which is not something you would ever do with the testimony of somebody who you were considering turning into a cooperator. Nothing about this process was conventional or normal.
I've said it a million times. He's not even good at being a con man fascist. He's not even good at it. It's obvious. He's doing it right in front of you. If you got some petty street criminals that are brought in and talking about some robbery that went wrong, and then the one guy, they ask him, so where were you at on Thursday? And he goes, I don't know, man, but Jimmy wasn't there. That's what she did. They sat there and didn't ask her about Trump, but she said, Donald Trump is the most President Trump. She would make sure she makes sure he has his official title. President Trump, he's the most gracious, most appropriate guy I've ever seen in my life. As a matter of fact, he's glowing. The guy is such a good person. I'm actually really impressed that he became president again. It's amazing. The guy is wonderful. All I know is that he's wonderful. President Trump is wonderful. He definitely wasn't on the island. Oh my God. All those girls none of the girls that he was around, never at any point, they were all just 18 years old, and they were excited about the things that he forced them to do. They don't care that we don't believe it.